Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to director Emma Cooper about the mystery of Marilyn Monroe, the Unheard tapes, which is going to be streaming on Netflix April 27th. Thank you so much for your time.
That's my pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is exciting. It's coming out pretty soon. You know, it's been about, it's 60 years later since the unfortunate passing of Marilyn Monroe. And till this day, it's still very fresh. People are talking about it. I'm just curious right off the bat, what's it like taking on a project like this where people are still very invested in it till this day?
Well, it did take me a long time. It took me 3 years. And it was an experience. It was, I wanted to do her proud, but I kind of came to the project without much knowledge or anything about Marilyn myself. Mm-hmm. So I was coming to it pretty fresh, which I think was really helpful in terms of kind of like getting to know her and representing her well, I hope.
100%. And, my next question kind of ties in a little bit to that. I mean, in the digital age, streaming age, there's no shelf life for a lot of pop culture. There's no shelf life for a lot of amazing pop culture figures like Marilyn Monroe. And I'm wondering if that was kind of part of your mindset when it came to like deciding to make a film like this, because of the fact that the digital age, everything's always around and resurfacing. I'm curious about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, she was quite a one-dimensional character, and it was really important to me. And as the film became more of the film, I realized that my main character was Marilyn Monroe, one of the most famous women in the world. And as soon as I realized that, and we were in the edit, and I had an amazing editor, and we were working on all of the archive we had of her, and then I wanted to make sure that she was in her own documentary. And I hope that we managed to do that. But it took me about a year to realize that she needed to be in this film, and we needed to find a way to put her in it. In that way, as you say, digitally, we're really used to that. But she'd never really lifted out of her own movies to me. And so it was a real part of the experience to make her kind of come alive in that way.
But there's so many people that have Marilyn Monroe as their iPhone wallpaper, right? There's so many people, like, it's not going anywhere.
No, she's not going anywhere. And in fact, I wasn't a big fan. And now I have a tattoo of her on my arm, which I didn't think I would have when I started this project. So, she's with me forever now.
Because there's so many, and I do have a specific question about documentaries, but because there's so many things I feel like to talk about, because also that what we just said about the no shelf life of the digital age, because we always come across things at one point, and they can't get away from that, basically.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting. My next question is about Anthony Summers, the book Goddess, The Secret Lives of Marilyn Monroe. What was it like, his work on this documentary of yours, working with him? What can you tell me about Anthony Summers?
I mean, I learned so much from him. We became great friends through the process, and I learned so much about journalism. This is a man that doesn't throw anything away, even a piece of paper that he'll scribble something on. He archives every single thing, which we are not used to doing. We are just so like, throw it away. I've put it on a note on my iPhone somewhere. He keeps everything, he logs everything, and he cross-references everything. And so all the evidence with the ambulance drivers, when we got into that in the last kind of hours and days of her life, the fact that he had gone around and spoken to as many people as he had and had them all documented, backed up, cross-referenced. I mean, it's a documentary filmmaker's dream to work with somebody as professional as Tony. And I have learned so much from him, and I have taken now into my own storytelling his, what you and I would consider pretty old school. I now think it's completely gold standard. It's what we should be doing. If Tony hadn't worked like that, this film wouldn't exist.
Well, you could, just by watching it, you could tell. Like, you could tell, be like, the work.
And he says he isn't obsessed. And he's like, well, it was supposed to take 2 weeks. but it took like 3 years. And then I did the same thing. I was like, oh, it's going to take a year. It took me 3 years. I don't know if that's to do with Tony or if that's to do with Marilyn, but maybe it's a combination of both of them.
No, absolutely. Documentaries and docuseries, that's an understatement saying that there is such an amazing appeal for them these days. And I'm just curious from someone who makes documentaries, Emma, like what do you think is drawing people towards documentaries in your opinion?
I do think that truth can be stranger than fiction. I really do. I'm consistently working on stories and getting involved in people's lives, and I find things out and I think, wow, if I saw this in a drama, I don't know if I would believe it. And I think that there's something incredibly magical about being able to look at the people that you're learning stories about. So looking at archive of Marilyn and in her own life is captivating and amazing, particularly when you're hearing things and learning things about her that maybe you didn't know before.
No, absolutely. And last question before we wrap up this interview. People are going to be able to see your film April 27th on Netflix. When they get a chance to watch The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, the Unheard tapes, what are you hoping they get out of it takeaway wise?
I hope that they really get to know the woman that Marilyn is, the enigma that Marilyn is. And it's really important to me that young women look at her and look at her vulnerability and her strength and see themselves in her, that we as women, we can all connect with Marilyn Monroe. And that's incredibly important to me.
Very well said. Emma, thank you so much for your time. And April 27th on Netflix, it's The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, the Unheard tapes. Thank you so much for your time. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.